They gave me the vault because nobody else wanted it. That is how it works at the tail end of a man's career on a station as old and tired as Orth Prime. The good postings go to the young technicians with their fresh certifications and their eagerness to be noticed. The corridor assignments, the pipe crawl inspections, the deep-level maintenance routes that smell of cold iron and old air, those come to the ones who've lasted long enough to stop complaining. I had lasted 41 years on excavation platforms, the last 12 on Orth Prime, and I had stopped complaining so long ago I'd forgotten what I used to complain about. Sublevel 7 was my territory. 1,400 meters below the station floor, bored into the bedrock of a moon that had not seen open sky in geological memory. Most of the equipment down there dated from the original survey colonization. Coolant lines, pressure monitors, seismic sensors that the platform's AI had long since stopped querying because they returned the same flat readings every hour for a century. My job was to walk the corridor twice a day, log that nothing had changed, and walk it back. 31 years of twice-daily walks. My boots knew every joint in the deck plating. I knew the stone column before the geologists did. They found it 8 months into a lateral drill expansion, a sealed mass of fused black stone, 11 meters tall, sunk into the bedrock as if it had grown there or been placed there before the moon's crust closed over it. The drill head had cracked its edge before the operator recognized the regularity of its surface and cut the power. By the time the senior team arrived, I had been walking past the drill site for 6 weeks. I had watched the machine work, logged the shift reports, gone home to my bunk. The finding was their discovery. I was the man who swept up after. They called it an anomaly. The xenoarchaeology team that arrived from Carrot Station called it a formation. Neither word felt right for a thing that stood the way it stood. Not like stone deposited or fractured, but like something set, deliberate, planted in the deep bedrock of a dead moon 14,000 years before anyone thought to look. For 8 months the specialists came. They scanned it, mapped it, ran spectral analysis and materials dating and sonic resonance profiles. The column absorbed their instruments the way stone absorbs rain, without acknowledgement, without reaction, without any indication that it registered being studied at all. The chief xenoarchaeologist, a young woman named Dr. Hearth, told the platform director the column was inert. Formed obsidian with internal crystalline structures of unknown origin. Fascinating, but geologically passive. I swept around it every morning, ground the grit off the drill-carved floor, nudged equipment carts back against the walls, checked the seismic monitor behind it. Ordinary work. I was good at ordinary work. The thing that ended my ordinary work happened on a Tuesday. I know it was Tuesday because I remember thinking that the Tuesday sweep always took 11 minutes longer than any other days, for reasons I had never managed to identify. I had finished the far end of the corridor and was working back toward the column. My shoulders ached. They had ached every morning for 6 years, and I had made my peace with that. I reached the monitoring station behind the column, ran my hand down the panel, housing the way I always did, checking the housing for warmth that would indicate a failing relay. The panel was cold. Fine. I stepped around the column's base to cross to the far housing, and I put my left palm flat against the stone to brace myself around the corner in the low light. My father taught me that. Press the hand flat, feel for vibration. On the old deep bore rigs where he worked, you could tell a fractured support column from a solid one by the way it trembled under a press palm. Not tapping, that was for amateurs. A flat palm, steady held. He had taught me when I was 9 years old, and I had never stopped doing it. I pressed my palm against every surface I passed in the dark. Most surfaces told me nothing. I noted it and moved on. The column was warm. I stood still. The column was 11 meters of fused black stone that had been geologically inert according to the most sophisticated scanning equipment on the station. It had no power source. It had no thermal regulation. It had been here for 14,000 years in the cold bedrock of a moon that averaged 4 degrees above absolute zero in its deep layers. It was warm the way a living thing is warm. I did not move my hand. The warmth deepened. Not heat, not burning, something else. It moved up through my palm and into my wrist and sat there, the way the ache in my shoulders sat there, familiar and settled, as if it had always been present and I had simply never been touching the right surface to feel it. My feet did not move. My mind was very quiet. 41 years of reading what surfaces told me, and this surface was telling me something I did not have a language for yet. Then the light came, from inside the stone, not from exterior, not projected, from inside, as if the fused black surface were glass and something was igniting behind it. The color was deep amber, the shade of the emergency running lights in a corridor that has lost main power, and it moved from the base upward through the column in a slow, deliberate pulse, following the line of my hand's position, finding it, centering on it. I heard a sound through my palm before I heard it in the air, a low resonance, moving through the bone of my hand and up my arm and into my sternum, where it opened like a struck bell. Then the column spoke, not in any language I had learned, not in any language any linguist on Orth Prime would have recognized. But I understood it the way you understand something that was always true before you had the words for it. The understanding arrived whole, ahead of the sound, and the sound confirmed what was already settled in me. Still burning, first hearth. I stood in sub-level 7 with my left palm on a 14,000-year-old column of black stone, and I felt the amber light pulse once more through my hand and settle. And I thought about my father's hands on a rig support column in the dark. I thought about his father, whose name I knew, but whose face I knew only from a photograph my father kept. I thought about how far back that photograph's line went, and found I could not find the end of it, found that the line did not have an end I could see, that it went back into a time before names, before photographs, before the stations and the rigs and the excavation platforms, back to something that had stood in a place like this and done exactly what I had just done. The column was still warm. It would be warm when Dr. Verith arrived in 40 minutes to begin her morning scan. It would register on her equipment now. She would not understand why it had activated. She would form theories. She would write papers. She would bring more specialists. They would search for the trigger, the catalyst, the precise cause. I knew the cause. For generations of men who pressed a flat palm to cold stone in the dark and listened. I had been on Orth Prime for 12 years, believing I was here because the good postings had gone to younger men. I understood now that I had arrived when I was supposed to arrive and stood where I was supposed to stand and done what I had always done, what I'd been made to do without ever being told, and the thing in the deep rock had been waiting for exactly that. I lowered my hand. The amber light held, steady and slow pulsing, in the stone. I picked up my mop. I finished the sweep. I logged that nothing had changed. Some things, when you have carried them all your life without knowing, you do not shout about. You carry them a little differently, after,